is our special interview with Miss Stacy Todd. My name is Sydney Fowler, and I am a member of the Eagle Ridge Broadcasting Station. So, Stacy is a volunteer with Basin Ambulance. So, how long have you been at Basin Ambulance?
I've been with Basin Ambulance for about 10 years.
Wow. Based on that number of years, I'm going to safely assume that you love your job.
I do. I really enjoy volunteering in the community.
Why would you say you love your job?
I love it because I get to help people and challenge myself to learn new skills and take care of people.
Yeah. What exactly is your position at Basin Ambulance? Like, what's your main job?
So I am a EMT intermediate. We don't necessarily have jobs because we are volunteers. However, I go on the more critical calls and when there's critical need, but we respond as needed.
Perfect. What is the most interesting call you've responded to?
So I think the most interesting call I responded to was very early in my volunteering with Basin Ambulance. I went to an evisceration of a child, and it was the very first official time I ever saw guts. And I was very interested not only to see them, but surprised that there was very little blood. So I think that was my most interesting call. It taught me a lot about how to be cool under pressure, how to work with people under pressure, and how to work with families when they're under extreme stress.
So it made you feel like you got a good experience out of it.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Based on the current situation in the world right now, how valuable would you say first responders are?
I would say they are no more important than they were 5 years ago and no less important than they'll be in 5 years. They're really important to keeping communities safe and healthy, and I think that's just kind of a standard through all times, not just times of crisis.
How long have you been at Chiloquin Fire and Rescue?
I have been here for 19 years. I started in 2001, January of 2001, so
Wow.
almost 20 years.
Based on that number, I'm going to safely assume you like your job.
I love my job. So I'm currently a volunteer, but I've also worked here as well. Yes, I love my job.
Why would you say you love your job?
I love working with people. I love the people that I work with. I have a lot of great people that I get to work beside and do some good things for. I enjoy giving back to my community and helping the people when they need that help, and hoping at some point in time that there will be somebody there to help me in my need or my family's need. So
Perfect. What is your basic position at Chiloquin Fire and Rescue?
I operate as a captain, but also a training officer. So what that entails is going on emergency medical calls or fire calls, and then training people to get up to the level that we need to. So we have a lot of volunteers that come in and training them to the basic levels of what they need to know, so they can assist and help so they don't get hurt in what they do.
What is the most interesting call you've ever been on?
Most interesting call I've ever been on. There's been a few. One that comes to mind right now is had a individual that was hit by a car on 97 that was in the middle of the night, and it was not really known as to why he was on the road in the highway in that section because there's no people or anything like that. We couldn't find a car, and unfortunately he was hurt pretty bad, but we landed a helicopter, shut down the highway, and landed a helicopter right on the highway and flew him out. So last I knew, he did survive, but it was not able to follow up anymore with that. It's just kind of surreal when you show up to like something like that and a random act like that and somebody gets hit. So it makes you feel a little vulnerable as a whole. But again, you rely on people that you can trust and talk to stuff.
Okay. Based on the current situation in the world right now, how valuable would you say first responders are?
First responders are critical to, I think, everything that's going on as a whole. And I would say not just in the world right now. It is kind of a crazy time, but in general, because people always need that help. And so we always need responders. So they're a huge asset to everybody because people always need help, and they're always going to need help. And so having those people to be able to come and help them in their time of need is is a pretty big deal.
How long have you been at Chillicothe Fire and Rescue?
I've been here for 6 years now.
What is your position at Chillicothe Fire and Rescue?
I am the fire chief for Chillicothe Fire and Rescue.
Perfect. What tasks do you do as chief?
So I have many tasks. Most importantly is keeping all of our personnel safe and keeping all the equipment ready so that it can respond very, very quickly to help people. And then there's a lot of administrative.
Why do you love your job? I'm going to safely assume you love your job.
Well, that would be a safe assumption. Probably the most important part of the job is being able to help people. It's one of the reasons I got into it. I had some family members that really needed help from first responders, volunteers, fire department, ambulances, and I thought that was wonderful. In the military, I was able to help people at that level, and now out in the civilian world, I'm able to help not just in the capacity of fire chief, but also as an advanced EMT and as a firefighter.
Perfect. What is the most interesting fire call you've ever been on?
So I probably had a couple. Probably the most interesting one was we had a fire in an old home, and there was a couple in there, and we got them out, and we were putting their fire out, and it was fully involved in the back half of the fire, in the back half of the house, and we started hearing a bunch of pops, and then you could start smelling. Well, they had about 200 cases of split pea soup. So the whole scene smelled like split pea soup. It smelled really good. So that was interesting. And then another interesting call we had was a fully involved house fire when I worked with Cresswell. And had a lady that was not able to get out of the house. She was in a wheelchair. We got her out safely. But in addition, she had about 100 birds and probably a dozen cats.
Wow.
Which is an interesting combination. But that being said, we got every bird and every cat out safely. And it was kind of a cool day. When we fight a fire or we work on a fire, we're there when somebody's having the worst day of their life. And our job is to try to help them the best we can. And sometimes it's the small things of being able to go inside the home and removing some of the most valuable items for them so they don't lose them.
Wow.
So it's very, very important to help people.
What is the most interesting medical call you've ever been on?
I've been on numerous medical calls. I will give you the story of my best day. And at the same token, it was almost one of my worst days. So we get toned out for a 2-year-old boy that had fell into a campfire. And so as I share this, everybody always gets upset, and rightfully so, because our job is to help people, and it's a small child, and our job is to help children. Mm-hmm. So we got everything ready. We started looking through the paperwork. We got the ambulance going, code 3. We got the helicopter in the air. We got everything ready. We show up on scene, and the mother and the grandmother were kind of upset at the campground. The father had taken the child down to the lake to kind of cool him off, to help out with a burn. And the dad and the young boy came up, and I got to looking at him, and he just had one small little burn on his belly. It was enough to hurt him, but it wasn't his whole body. So we were able to warm him up and treat the wound. Got the helicopter taken care of, let the ambulance crew know what was going on, got mother calmed down, got grandma calmed down. Dad was doing okay, and we got the young man into the ambulance, and we took him to the hospital, and he was okay. But it started off not so good, but it ended well.
Yeah.
It was a good day.
Perfect.
It was a good EMS call.
That's interesting. Okay. What type of calls does Chillicothe Fire and Rescue go on?
So we provide full service as far as the fire department. We provide EMS and EMS transport to help somebody. We provide structural firefighting protection should your home catch on fire, or if you have smoke inside your home, vehicle fires. We provide wildland fire protection, and we do technical rescue to include extrication from vehicles in the event of a car wreck, or rope rescue if somebody's down over a bank, or water rescue if somebody's in the water and trapped.
Okay. That's a lot.
It's a lot of training.
How many calls has your district responded to in, let's say, the past year?
So we're running approximately 800 to 900 calls a year. So that's about 3 a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
How large is the district and can you describe the area that you cover?
Sure. So the fire district itself is 105 square miles. It goes from Agency Lake up to the fish hatchery about 20 miles south of Crater Lake. It goes east over to milepost 13 on Sprague River Road, and it goes south down to Modoc Point, Highway 97, milepost 258. So that's 105 square miles. However, in this county, we have a very large county, and so we help a lot of people outside of our fire district, which at times can go up to 2,000 square miles. So we'll go all the way north of Crater Lake to Highway 138. We'll go east as far as Lake County if needed. Most of the time we go to 140. And we'll go west over to Jackson County to assist Rocky Point. So we cover quite a bit of ground, and the volunteers do a wonderful job.
Perfect. How many volunteer firefighters and EMTs do you have?
Oh, excellent. So we have, at this time, we have 35 volunteers that do a myriad of items that some do EMS, some do structure, some do wildland, and some do it all. And we have office staff and various other, to include our cadet program that allows people that are in high school that are younger than 18 but older than 16 to allow them to join the department so that they can start learning the culture within the fire department, start learning the skills, and then when they become 18, they become full members and fight fire and do EMS.
Based on the current situation in the world right now, how valuable would you say your district and your job is to the community?
I think our department is very, very important. All the staff within the department provide a service that isn't just EMS. It's not just fighting a fire. It also provides a stability and a focal point for safety within the community. I would like to think that the community entrusts us to provide them with safe mechanisms in the event that they get sick, in the event that they do have a fire, in the event that they do have a car wreck, and that they would entrust us to have the training, the tools, and the ability to come help them. I believe that we provide a very important service within the community besides the protection we provide, but the security blanket that they know that we will be there for them.
Yeah. Besides fire and EMS, how does Chiloquin Fire and Rescue give back to the community? Are there other ways that you help out?
We do. The volunteers have put together quite a few little programs. We assist in the form of scholarships to the high school to help people with training or future abilities to get schooling. During the holiday season, some of the families that are not very fortunate, the volunteers have put together a wonderful program to assist those families with meals and gifts and monies to help pay for some bills. During parades, we also go ahead and provide traffic control or do other little items. We have gone over and split wood for members within the community. We've helped some of the elderly that weren't able to do some stuff, change fire alarms, batteries and smoke detectors and fire alarms. So we do whatever it takes to help make our community better.
That's really important.
Thank you.
Are there other ways that someone can become a first responder?
Sure. There's many ways. Most of the time, it usually starts at volunteer fire department level. You would come in and join a department. Depends on the department on how that works. In our department, you fill out a application. You come to drill. I have a very strict rule in this department, and that is family first. I believe that everybody needs to make sure that they feel their family is safe so that they can respond and help out their community. Once they've been at drill for at least 3 drills in a row, then they can go ahead and join. We have a little interview process so they can ask questions of the volunteers or staff. and then we do a background check, and then they continue to come into training. We get them the proper PPE, which is protective equipment, personal protective equipment. And then we start training them, moving them forward, and letting them respond on calls. Other departments may have a little different mechanism in that, but that's generally how it works.
And that's how your department runs.
That's how our department works. Some of the other ways you can do it is you can go to your local community college and take courses in firefighting, fire science degrees. You can take EMT classes. And then there's many other ways. You know, you can check with your local city halls and your local city memberships and see if there's ways to help out within your community as well. Being a firefighter is not the only way to volunteer or help your community. There's a lot of different ways that we can help each other.
How long have you been at Fire District 1?
I've been here since April 1st of 2020.
Wow. What is your position?
So I'm the fire chief here for the district.
What are your tasks to do as chief?
So the specific tasks, I would say the day-to-day job varies quite a bit. A lot of times I'm involved with our suppression crews and then our EMS chief. We respond to a lot of medical emergencies throughout the district. And in doing that, definitely need to support the EMS division. And we have one deputy fire marshal in the department right now. So we're involved in community development and risk reduction. And then we are actively involved with our community members, city government, county government, state elected officials. And so we play a pretty major part with them as far as representing Klamath County Fire District number 1.
Why do you love your job?
So why do I love my job? You know what? I really like being involved in supporting the community. Klamath Falls as a whole is a very resilient community. I really appreciate the services that we get to provide to them and for them. I like to be involved with community partnership and support our fire department members. Definitely want them to do a good job and set them up for success, so that's why I really like the job.
Okay. What is the most interesting fire call that you have responded to?
So I would say there's been a number of fire calls over the years that have been pretty interesting. But one in particular that stands out is a fire that I responded to in eastern Oregon a few years ago as a supervising state fire marshal. And responded to that call. We had a couple fatals involved in that. And the reason why that fire stands out is it was a difficult call for that community, a difficult incident. And we had a lot of community support. It made a big impact, not just I think on the local scene itself, but on me as an individual.
Perfect. What is the most interesting medical call that you have ever responded to?
My oldest son, when he was 2 years old, I heard the tones go out, and it was to my home here in Klamath Falls, and I wasn't on the initial dispatch to that call, but I did jump that call since it was to my own home and it was for an unconscious 2-year-old. And so when we arrived on scene, found my son, my wife had my son, and he was conscious and alert at the time, which leading up to getting there brought on a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
But right when we got there, things calmed down immediately, and we were able to help him out. And so that is definitely a call that stands out to me. When you hear your own address come over the tones, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. What types of calls does Fire District 1 respond to specifically?
So we respond to a number of types of calls. Fire for structures, fire for wildland. We go to EMS calls, and those are both basic life support calls and advanced life support calls. We have a hazmat team here. So we're a multi-hazard fire department with the capabilities of responding to a number of type of calls.
Very versatile.
Yes.
How many calls has your district responded to in the past year,
So
roughly?
historically, we've ran about mid 7,500 call range a year, and this year it looks like we're going to be a little bit above that, up towards 8,000 calls this year.
Wow. How large is the district, and can you describe the area that you cover?
So the district is approximately 192 square miles. The area that we cover is both within the city limits of Klamath Falls and then the south suburban area and the wildland interface area immediately around the district. We go along Highway 140, both to the east and the west, and along Highway 97 north and south. And so we cover that area for fire response and for medical response.
How many firefighters do you have right now?
So we have 63 line staff. As far as the department overall, we have 75 personnel with the department.
Based on the current situation in the world right now, how valuable would you say first responders are to the community?
You know, I would say that we're extremely needed in the community. Probably no more than we were before any of the things that have been going on. But I think that it brings a little bit different perspective for the interaction that we have in the community.
Besides fire and EMS, how does Fire District 1 give back to the community?
So we have a pretty active prevention program. We have a car seat program. We have a juvenile fire setter, a youth fire setter, an intervention program that we operate here. So we really want to stay active with the community as far as prevention. We're also actively involved in community development, and so we play a big role with planning and development within and around our area. We offer a number of services through our EMS division with being involved in the community, and when we are typically not involved in the things that we are in today's world, we would be actively involved in school tours and station tours and going out and supporting school events and public events. A lot of that has changed due to what's going on, but we have a lot of programs here that we offer to the community.
That's great. Does Fire District 1 have a program where younger people can learn how to become a first responder?
Yeah, we do. We have a rider program. Actually, if you go to our website, you can look that up and then go up and sign in to be a rider or an observer. Over the last couple months, we've had to take a couple steps back on that program just due to what's going on. But we still have maintained that program. As far as restrictions for that, if we have people who are interested in the career field and they're younger than 18, they need to bring a parent or a guardian.
Okay. Are there other ways that someone could become a first responder?
Yeah, I know I started my career through the Air Force. I was a United States Air Force firefighter and was educated through their program. And then I also went to college with the Siskiyous in California and finished a degree through them, and then finished some additional education through Eastern Oregon University. So there is a number of ways that people can get involved. They can go and be a volunteer, start out that way. They can enter into a community college program. I know that KCC has a program now, and it's up and running and becoming more advanced, and they're definitely getting more capabilities through that school.
Alright, there's plenty of ways that someone can get into the field.
Yes.
What is your position at the Klamath County Sheriff's Office?
I'm the operations lieutenant.
How long have you been at Klamath County Sheriff's Office?
I've been with the sheriff's office for over 23 years. I started as a volunteer 24 years ago and worked my way up through the ranks.
Perfect. Why do you love your job?
Enjoy helping people in my community. I was born and raised here in Klamath County, and it's nice to give back Sounds a little cliche to say I want to help people, because that's pretty much what everybody says. But as my career has grown, now it's more about developing younger deputies and helping them with their careers.
Describe your duties as a lieutenant.
I do a little bit of everything. I don't get out on the road as much anymore, maybe a few times. As the operations lieutenant, I'm in charge of pretty much anything that happens on the street. So that means all the patrol deputies, our civil division, marine division, forest, anything that happens outside of corrections, I have a piece in. All the volunteer organizations, and just the general operations of criminal investigations, or anything that's occurring on the road.
What kind of calls do you respond to specifically?
I do not really respond to calls. I'm not in the call rotation for responding to calls. I have deputies that do that for me, and then they have supervisors. So I supervise the supervisors that are taking care of the deputies on the road for the calls for service. I will still go out on very major crimes.
How many calls have you been on in the past year?
So I don't know exactly how many I've been on. It's hard to really put a number on that for me. But what I did do is I did a little bit of research to find out how much an average patrol deputy handles. So what I kind of figured out, an average patrol deputy, one deputy can handle up to 1,400 calls per year, which pretty much averages out to about 7 a day. Again, that depends on holidays, vacations, what shift they're working, the type of assignment that they have. That's pretty rough average.
Okay. What is the most interesting call you've ever been to?
That's a hard thing to try to really narrow down, because a lot of them are routine, but a lot of them are interesting in many ways. Like I said, if it's a major crime, that makes it very interesting. But I think the people that you meet make the calls really interesting. And that could be something as easy as a neighbor dispute or something like that. They might not even take a case on it, but it might be just very interesting, the types of situations people can get themselves into and why they need to call the sheriff's office or police officer to help them figure a way out or to assist them with it. I had to respond to a badger under a back porch once. That was pretty interesting and unusual. Pursuits. And so obviously I've been involved in a number of those, or shootings or homicides. Those types of calls are extremely interesting and complex. Yeah, that's one of the great things about being a law enforcement officer is you never know what you're going to get into, for one thing. And then what it does to you emotionally, it can change you as a person. You definitely become a different type of person.
Based on the current situation in the world right now, how valuable would you say first responders are to our community?
Our community, I think they're valuable to every community. I mean, not just ours. And I don't think I say that just because of the job that I have, but without the men and women in law enforcement, in fire, in dispatch, in each of those disciplines. And I'm not just talking about those of us that are lucky enough to have this as a career and get paid. I'm talking about the volunteers, volunteer firefighters, and police officers, and everybody who contributes as a first responder. They're invaluable. I mean, the experience and the training that they have, and just the willingness to put themselves out there for their neighbors and their friends and the community is an amazing thing. And the support that our community gives us is amazing. So I think we're very lucky to live here.
Okay. How long have you been sheriff for Klamath County?
I've been Klamath County Sheriff now for just under 4 years.
Perfect. What are your jobs to do as sheriff?
Well, there's a lot of jobs that the sheriff does that I didn't realize we were going to be doing here, but we have a couple of different ways we look at that. First are the mandates, the laws that say this is what the sheriff needs to do. Those are pretty basic. They won't surprise you. They come along the lines of keep the peace, bring people before the judges or the magistrates, hold people in what they call prison in the law, but was really our jail. The civil processes of the county are also belong to the sheriff's department. The sheriff of every county is responsible for the search and rescue activities within their county. So those are some of the mandates. But then the sheriff takes on other responsibilities too. So we have other responsibilities like the animal control or the emergency management, marine patrols on the lakes and waterways of Oregon, and there's a few others. So the responsibilities are vast, so that's what the sheriff's job is.
Okay. What is the sheriff's deputy required to do as their job?
Well, this may sound a little funny after what I just told you, but really the deputies' jobs are to do whatever the sheriff asks them to do. So essentially, they fulfill the sheriff's mandate to do certain things. So they work underneath the office of the sheriff. Whoever holds the office of the sheriff sets up the structure of what we want our deputies to be doing, and that's what the deputies do. Our patrol deputies handle calls for service, and our detention deputies or corrections deputies over in the jail take care of all the adults that are in custody over there for crimes.
Why do you love your job?
Well, you're assuming I do love my job,
Yeah,
and I do. You know, I think probably the neatest thing about working in a public safety deal is that first responder aspect where ultimately being the first person at the scene where someone needs some sort of help has its own little benefit. And so what I like about my job is I truly am in a position to help people. Now, I don't do it directly so much like I used to, but my patrol deputies and my corrections deputies and my civil deputies, they all get to do that. So what I like about my job right now is I get to make sure that they have the tools and resources available for them to do that. So I get some satisfaction of the fact that things are getting done.
What is the difference between sheriff's office and city PD?
The sheriff's offices are basically a position that was been listed in the Constitution since the beginning. Sheriffs are elected officials. That's pretty much the way it is across the country with some few exceptions. But in Oregon, I can tell you all sheriffs are elected. They hold an office. They're not hired by any particular group of people that says we would like you to be our sheriff other than the voters. The city police departments are different in the fact that those police chiefs are generally hired by a city council, and they generally are limited in their responsibilities to the city limits of whatever city they work for. The sheriff's responsibilities reach beyond that to the county, the entire county, everything in it, including the city. So I have some responsibility. Just because someone lives in the city does not alleviate the sheriff's office from responsibilities there.
Okay. What types of calls does the sheriff's office respond to specifically?
Well, there are many types of calls that we respond to. Pretty much anytime a citizen calls for help, we try and decide whether it is something that we can help them with or if we can send them to someone else that's better equipped to do that. But oftentimes we don't know that until we go to the scene or make that phone call and actually ask them what they need to be done. They can be calls to assist other agencies like the fire department. You know, if there's an incident where the fire response, the emergency responders need to go into a place, but they need some security, we could provide that as well. We assist other agencies too. It's just really just about anything you could think of where someone might think it would be a good idea to have a uniformed police officer around, we go to.
Where do you specifically respond?
Klamath County is the geographical boundaries of our responsibilities. However, we doesn't stop there. You know, in Oregon, if you're a certified police officer, you have the responsibility to investigate crimes or complaints even outside of your county. As long as it's in the state of Oregon, we're able to do that. So oftentimes, our deputies even will go over those county borders, whether it be for a search and rescue event or assistance to another agency. But specifically within Klamath County, about 66,000 square miles, that's our county.
How many deputies does Klamath County Sheriff's Office have right now?
The exact number, I will tell you, is about 2/3 of our office, our deputies are sworn police officers. About the other third would be our support staff. So we have 101 or 102 employees.
Do you have a program where high school students can learn about the career?
We have assisted high school students learn things about the career. We've helped them with senior projects. From time to time, so we'll get contacted, much as we were today, to help out where we can. We don't shy away from showing high school students or anybody else that cares to come down and show them what we do.
What is the most interesting call you've ever been to?
I've been in law enforcement for more than 30 years. Interesting? I'll tell you about one of my favorites. One of my favorites was wasn't really a call. It started out with me trying to stop a car that turned out to be stolen. Ended up in a day-long chase up a snowy mountain on foot with snowmobiles and airplanes. You name it, we tried everything. What started out with I thought was a simple pull a guy over for going a little bit fast turned into a multi-agency all-day search where he finally gave up because he'd run up Brown Mountain, which is out west of town. He'd been running all day long. He finally thought he was going to die. So then he started calling us for help. So then we loaded him up on a snowmobile and got him out of there. Turns out he was kind of a one-person crime spree over in Jackson County and had been stealing things, big things, bulldozers, boats, you name it. And when I turned my car around on him, he thought the gig was up, and so he ran for his life. So I don't know how interesting that is to you, but it was really fun for me because I got to climb a hill, chase a guy in the snow, commandeer a snowmobile, and end up bringing him out. And it was a really good day.
Based on the current situation in the world right now, how valuable would you say first responders are to the community?
Well, hopefully, when you say first responders, you're not just talking about police officers, because I would like to say that the entire public safety group of individuals, whether it be fire or ambulance or police or you name it, goes on and on. I think it's, given the current situation, like you said, I think it's foolish to think that this country would ever really want to go without first responders. There's always going to need to be someone that's willing to show up first and start directing the help that needs to come in. And so I think it's foolishness to think that any first responders should be done away with or reduced to the point, because that may sound really good right up until the first minute you need some help and you need someone to call.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to become a first responder?
Do it. It's a really great thing, not only for personal development, but for taking care of your community, and take care of each other. Make sure you stay safe, make sure you stay healthy, and make sure that you're all doing the best for your community.
Being that there are several different avenues for first responders, fire, EMS, police, depending on where path you want to go, you definitely need to get some history. Go and figure out what it is that you want and what it is that required. If that's what you're looking to do for a career, then go and figure out what education you need to do to become that level. There's many different ways to do that in response, like to a fire, to be go down a career path of a firefighter. Being a volunteer is a great asset to your community, and you give back. And a lot of times, communities like this and Chillicothe Fire and Rescue offer some free training, able to train people and get them to certain levels of certifications, and then they can continue forward. And so you get to get that free training time and experience, and not have to pay for some of that, and then give back to a community as well. So I think you definitely need to research where it is that you want to go and what path you want to go, and then figure out what it is that you need to do. So reaching out to, if it's a police, figuring out if you know somebody, or go down and talk to a local police department and figure out what it is that they say to be able to do that. So
With rule number 1, family first. I would make sure that you have the support of your family and your loved ones so they know that what you're going to do. Have the right mindset. Ensure that you're prepared to help people on the worst day of their life. Sometimes that takes a lot out of us. Make sure that you're as physically fit as you can be, which includes eating right and being mentally prepared. Okay. And then be prepared for training. Be prepared to start training in areas that include fighting fires, hiking up and down mountains, carrying patients. So being prepared in all those different areas. Yeah, there's quite a bit of areas you can work on, but those are some of the places you can start. And if you have any questions, always feel free to come here, and I'd be more than happy to help you.
In order to jump into this career field, I think you need to have a desire to serve or provide a public service. I think that you need to have an interest in providing service to others before you take care of yourself at times, because you're responding to people's needs, and you definitely should have a desire to help people out, especially in their time of need, and have a desire to be involved on a medical scale at times, and then in a fire situation. And then we have a number of people who work for this department that not only respond to emergencies, but give support. We have support staff for billing, for technology, for human resources, for administration and finance. So this department has a number of different opportunities for people that are far-reaching just the emergency side.
I'd say volunteer for one thing. Get involved in a first responder program, whether it be through the sheriff's office. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities here with search and rescue, dive rescue, our reserve program, to be a reserve law enforcement officer, all the way up to our seniors with our mature volunteer program. Lots of different opportunities to volunteer, and just see if it's something that you're really interested in. Get to know us, we get to know you, and I think the biggest one for kids would be keep your nose clean. What I mean by is don't get into trouble, and don't put yourself out there in a situation that's going to jeopardize your background in some way. It's not all just about getting arrested or obeying the law. It's about the type of person that you are. Are you a good neighbor? Are you a good student? Do you help your family out? Once you have those traits, you show those traits, you're proving not only to yourself but to the agency that you're applying for that you have those qualities, and that's what they're looking for, a good person from the get-go. And it starts when you're a student and as you're growing up as young adults, because it's the framework for the type of adult that you're going to be.
I think, especially for younger people starting out, what they need to know is that they need to develop a sense of responsibility, not only for themselves, but for the community that they live in. They can be part of groups as they grow and mature. They need to work on their education, but they need to put themselves into a position where they'd be able to do that. Now, there are certain things that will knock you out of the ability to participate. If you get yourself into certain types of trouble, or you injure yourself or harm yourself, that could keep you even out of it. So start to develop that sense of responsibility, not only to yourself, but to the community that you live in. I even think about it sometimes like this. Every first responder knows that you can't help anybody if you don't get there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You can't help anybody if you don't get there. So you can't become a first responder if you don't do those sorts of things to get yourself there. And that means to start early. It always helps to start early and start thinking about these serious choices that you make as you grow up. That you can't help anybody as a first responder if you can't even get there because you've knocked yourself out of the game. Just like driving fast to help somebody, if you get in a crash on the way, you're not going to be able to help them. So you need to do that in your personal life as well. You need to start early thinking about those things, put yourself in the best position possible to be successful, to be selected, and really everybody should have the chance for that.
Okay.
Few won't be able to do it because they made bad choices, but regardless of that, start early. It'll pay off in the